You're listening to part 2 of a Dear Applicants podcast episode. Check out last week's episode to listen to part 1 of this interview. And so we'll move on to NYU in a bit, but while we're still on SAS, and of course you were just talking about your internship with Leader Auto Parts, what were some of the other activities that you were doing?
Well, I participated in some service clubs.
Okay.
Because, my friends were all in them, so naturally I joined. And
Are these the same friends that are going to Manhattan?
No.
Oh, okay, different ones.
Yeah. And I did the economics competition.
Okay, which economics?
It was like the Harvard
Collegiate?
Yeah, economics competition. So I did that.
What was that? What did you do over there?
Well, there was like a tryout of sorts where you took an exam, and then it was just...
And these were economics-based
Yes,
questions? Okay.
They were all economics-based questions. And then
Was it something you studied for, by the way, or just off your classes, you went in for it? And it was okay?
Well, I did a bit of just looking over my old notes,
Okay.
because it was, I think, after we had covered most of our curriculum.
Okay.
So I looked over some of my notes, and there was a written test, and there was like a trivia type thing where you had to zoom in for it. But it was interesting. Yeah.
And so what did you actually do once you were past the written test?
It was like they put you into teams, and then at this specified time they gave you, you logged into Zoom and you competed with another school.
So this was an SAS team?
No. Our team was all SAS, but it was split, SAS was split into, I want to say 3 or 4 teams.
Okay.
But yeah, and then it was just a trivia thing with other schools on Zoom. And it was
an economics trivia
yeah.
thing. Or was it more principles-based, economics-based? I mean, history-based?
I expected it to be more economics-based. More I want to say curriculum-based. But it was a lot of, real-world stuff. And there was, a bit of, history. It asked a lot about, the U.S., just their, political economics aspect of,
Okay.
do you know how many members are in something?
Oh, okay, that sort of stuff.
And so that definitely
Who was the second president of the IMF? Those sorts of questions.
It was a bit of that.
Okay.
And so it was a humbling experience, I'd say.
Okay, how did you guys do?
Not great.
Okay, sure, don't worry.
But, yeah.
Were there any takeaways from that? How did you even find the competition to begin with? Is this something that SAS students just do?
My economics teacher sent out an email to everyone, so we just...
So the teachers at school would sometimes flag activities that
Yes.
you guys could do.
Yeah.
Were there any other ones that you had done when you were in school? I know that there was the Syracuse University project.
Oh, yeah. That one it's like a dual enrollment where we could get Syracuse University credit that we can then transfer.
Oh.
So it was
have you been able to transfer?
I haven't done it yet because
Okay,
I can't get into my account.
Oh.
But yeah.
Okay, sure. But yeah, tell us about the project.
Yeah. So it was so I did AT economics and there was a Syracuse dual enrollment with it. So we had to do some extra reading and extra worksheets and 2 extra tests. But then we got the Syracuse credit, and it was the same thing for my AT computational physics class and my AT psychology class.
Okay, got it. So it's much more academic.
For most of my classes, I didn't have to do any extra work for it. And it really didn't, for psychology, there was nothing extra I had to do. It was only for economics where we had to read more.
Okay, got it. And what about the other extracurriculars that you were up to? Obviously, so there's been the internship and the Harvard and Syracuse projects. You were part of a bunch of service clubs. Was there anything else that you were up to? Or I guess what else did you round out your honors and activities list with?
Well, I did a workshop that actually one of my friends introduced, but it was a workshop with a professor in the U.S. And so it was there were Zoom lessons. And then there were homework assignments, and
how did you even find that?
One of my friends introduced it to me, and so it was a lot of that, and we just actually a lot of the other people in it were college students, so it was a little intimidating, but yeah, and so they recorded the lessons because it followed U.S. time, so if you couldn't make it.
And was this almost did it mirror an entire college course?
No, it was only 1 month.
It was a 1 month.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
what was it about?
It was about machine
learning.
Yeah.
Okay.
and a lot about like wearable technology.
Oh, okay.
And, yeah.
Cool. And as for your coding skills, that's something that did you take classes for it? Did you teach yourself?
I did AP
Computer science. So that's where you got most of it from?
Yeah.
Got
And
it.
that course, it taught me some coding towards the end, but it was a lot about like how technology is applied to our world right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. And so when you were going through your high school years, right? It sounds like you've collected quite a few things here and there. It's quite organic, right? You'd say it wasn't really planned ahead. You just kept exploring interests here and there. For example, you do the internship, learn from it, and go take it somewhere else. Is that an approach that you think worked for you or served you well in your applications rather than I have to hit 10 things on my list and do it in a linear fashion?
I think it worked for me because that's just like that's the way I work. Like I'm not a great plan ahead for the future type of person. But I mean, I think it worked out well for me.
Yeah.
But I think also if you are the type of person to like to have a plan, it's definitely like nerve-wracking to like when I got to the start of my senior year, I was like, oh, I don't have a lot of people, their like profiles and their resumes like round up perfectly, and mine isn't really like that. Like it's kind of all over the place, to be honest.
Where did those people end up?
I'm no idea, actually. But yeah.
Sure, fair enough. Before we continue, I would like to take a quick break to remind you to subscribe to our podcast and leave us a review on your favorite platform. Your feedback helps us improve and to reach a wider audience to provide further insight into this arduous journey. Also, if you have any questions or suggestions for future episodes, feel free to email us at our email linked in the description below. We'd love to hear from you. And speaking about planning ahead, you approached us quite late, didn't you? It's quite late in the day. I remember us scrambling. How was that experience of actually applying to university once you'd got all your ducks in a row with your profile building and all the different elements together? What was that experience of actually applying to university like?
I think it was definitely scary, but it was also like, honestly, now that I'm in the summer and I don't have a lot to do, I kind of miss it.
You miss the rigor of just everything together? Yeah,
because it's like, it felt very purposeful. Okay. And I think that was good. So
the admissions process felt purposeful. Yeah. How so? Why do you use that word?
Well, I just felt like I always had something I needed to be doing. And I felt like I was like doing something important with my life.
Okay. And what about so the US process is one that is quite different from the UK, obviously, where it's more, you were just talking about everything that you've done, right? Very academic, quite nerdy. Yeah. The US process, I know, is something that is it places a pretty heavy emphasis on reflection. Was that something that you enjoyed as someone that said you weren't really a creative writer?
I don't think so.
You didn't enjoy it?
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, I didn't hate it.
Okay.
But I think it was definitely challenging.
Okay.
Like, I had to revise my essays so many times because, well, it started out, my Common App essay started out reading like a personal statement. So it was a little annoying, but I'm
sure Petra kept pestering you about what to change and what to do.
Yeah. So she was very helpful, but yeah, it there was definitely a lot of self-reflection that like sometimes I had to put off just because like you really need to be in the zone for a US essay, I think. And
you found that zone eventually?
Yeah, eventually.
It's the same old system of procrastinating until you had to do it.
Yeah.
And what were some of the stories that you felt were particularly strong to your application or to your case, if you don't mind sharing with us?
Stories?
The essays, right? The stories that you were talking about in your essays.
Well, I really normally for my supplementals, I focused on only one of my activities rather than trying to like talk about my entire profile, if that makes sense. Okay, so you tried to break it down into component parts as well. Yeah. And what about the common application essay, the big one? The Common App was definitely more technology focused. Okay. Because that was more close to my intended major. Got it. So what was the story that you talked about over there? Do you remember it or is it? I talked about my internship. Okay. I talked about the workshop I did. And I talked about my classes.
So basically finding a common thread
Yeah.
through all of the activities still sounds a bit like a personal statement, right?
Yeah.
Do you think it still ended up sounding a bit like one?
I
Or were
think
there more
it
creative
took a lot of
elements as well?
rewrites where I just had to frame it more differently.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And so when you were writing the personal statement, was that something that you found a lot simpler? Was that more your style?
Yeah, I think that was more straightforward.
So you didn't need as much help from Brandon as from Petra then?
Yeah. I think like the organization, it was a lot, like Brandon gave me a lot of help, which obviously is good. But I think it did just come more naturally.
Okay. So what were the biggest differences between the two? If you were to explain to our audience, I mean, I know it, obviously, but yeah.
Yeah. I think the personal statement, everyone tells you it's like a written, like an essay formed resume.
Yeah, a cover letter, right? Basically.
And I think that's kind of true.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think it's a lot more like you really do get the chance to talk about your interests. Whereas
your academic
interest,
right? Yeah.
Whereas for the Common App, it's kind of like a whole story, and you have to talk about everything in your life.
So sort
in
of
650 words.
So creating a common narrative, a narrative that spans your personal experiences of sort of growth journeys, as well as all the little activities. Right. Okay. Well, any advice for students that are following in your footsteps? I guess advice for students that, like you, maybe a little, more on the STEM side, and maybe don't have that creative writing instinct or flair. How would you recommend they go about it?
I think just like in the start, don't worry about your Common App being like not flowery enough or not storytelling enough, because personally, I kind of just added the storytelling aspect into it after I had a solid draft of it. So it didn't start out very like story-ish, I'd say. But once you add it in, it's easier than starting out with the story and then having to add in like your experiences and like what you want them to know and like your skills and stuff like that.
Okay, got it. And it's bit curious about the university choice. Why NYU? Because obviously you applied ED, right? So was that your dream school?
Well, I originally did ED1 to Cornell. I got rejected.
Oh, right. So you did ED2 to NYU.
Yeah, because I definitely wanted to be in a city. And I also really wanted to be in California. But none of the California schools have ED.
Yeah.
And ED
but you applied to them anyways.
Yeah, I applied to them. But I had to withdraw.
Right.
Because
as you did with the UK.
So,
and you had been offered an interview with Imperial, right? In the UK?
Yeah.
Did you end up completing it, or did you get the NYU offer?
No, I got the NYU first, so I had to say no. But I think if I knew that if I couldn't go to California, because I was scared I wouldn't get into like a school on the same level as NYU in California.
So you were looking at SD, LA, Berkeley.
Yeah. So I knew that if I couldn't get into one of those schools, NYU was my best bet, and I would still enjoy it. So.
And why NYU over, Columbia, Brown? Well, Brown isn't really in the city, but nevertheless.
I didn't think I would get into Columbia.
Oh, okay.
So it was more just like...
So it's more pragmatic than anything. Got it. And how are you excited for NYU, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
You were telling me before the camera started rolling that you're quite excited for Greenwich Village. You're going to be living you're in the middle of the city. Yeah. Cool. And you want to talk to us more about BTech, the major that you're going to be doing?
Oh, yeah. So the major is Business Technology Entrepreneurship, and it's in the School of Business. But I think throughout the year, you definitely do have to cover all three of those aspects. And I chose it because I think like a business degree, I think would have given me less because I did want to be in technology and my essays were about technology. So I think it really merged my interests into one, which is why I chose it. And I think it also gave me a career path in the future.
So what is that path? I know you're a bit away from it, right? You're 4 years out of starting your first job, and at least 4 years out of starting your first job. But do you know what it is you may want to do? Do you have a vision of the future?
Not really.
Okay, so what was that career path then that you were just talking about?
Well, I do think I would like to be in the tech industry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
I don't really know what I would want to do.
Yeah, well, no worry. I mean, I hope in 4 or 5 years we invite Wendy back for the career series, and then she can tell us all about what she's doing in the tech industry. That's the last couple of questions. I know that you saw a lot of people here at IvyPrep. How did you find your time with us? I know you met Brandon, Petra, Ki Young, who was a strategist. How were those experiences?
I think it was really helpful. Just the flexibility of being able to cater like the program and like to what I needed was really helpful for me.
Okay. God, I know that we all really enjoyed working with you. Petra, of course, is in the office. She wants to say hi. Yeah. So we should pop over after this. I guess as a last sort of comment, is there anything that you'd like to leave our listeners, all the students and parents dialing in with? Any, again, words of wisdom?
I think just don't, like everyone tells you this, but don't stress about it too much. Like put in the work you need to put in, obviously. But just like mindless worrying won't really help you. So yeah.
So take it easy, basically, to sum it up. Okay, got it. Well, thank you so much for your time today. And thank you, students and parents, for joining in for this episode. Join us next time as we continue to guide you through all the ins and outs of the university admissions process. Thank you. That's all for today's episode of Dear Applicants. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope that you found the content valuable and insightful. If you'd like to learn more about our guests or the topics we discussed, be sure to check out our show notes for links and further resources.